the stormtroopers.
Yeah, all the stormtroopers.
That was a lot of fun.
How did you have all those stormtroopers there? Funny enough.
You'll have to go back and watch that episode, keeping in mind that I don't think we ever had more than 8.
8.
So there are a lot of CG motion captured stormtroopers in that sequence.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how's it too with Grogu, right? Like how do you work with like puppeteers, right? Because they're real puppeteers. It's not like fake CG with some of that, right?
Correct. Yeah. We always try and use the Muppet. You know what I mean? Because he's brilliant, and it takes usually 2 people to control his movement. And then there are another 3 people on remote controls, turning the head, ears, eyes, everything. So it's definitely, when it comes to legacy effects, is who built Grogu, and legacy personnel, are the puppeteers. And they're so good at what they do. You're literally having kind of this relationship with this puppet. It's I kind of can't describe it, but we always try and use the practical.
Yeah.
I
mean, it looked great. You're getting these emotions. Evoked.
And most of the CG work that happens with Grogu are erasing puppeteers behind him.
Is there any kind of personal projects that you kind of want to explore and maybe even shoot in film again or something in black and white?
I'd love to do something in black and white, because that's real. It's real photography, and it's difficult, It really forces you to think about your exposure and your ratios, your lighting ratios and that sort of thing, and you can't lean on colors for separation. It's just all black, white, and gray. It's a discipline. Yeah. Not that I had any idea during Clerks, but that was just set up the camera and shoot. A few lights here or there.
You brought up lighting ratios. Is there something that you have as far as like a recipe or kind of like a book on, like, hey, this is my lighting, kind of diary and your notes and stuff?
I wouldn't say that there's a recipe at all. I think anybody that wants to study lighting ratios should study Roger Deakins. He is by far, hands down, the master of lighting ratios. I mean, every shot just seems perfect to me, I generally like the camera side of things to be a little darker. It gives more shape to what you're trying to sculpt with your lighting. But in terms of actual ratios, I just kind of go with my gut. I couldn't tell you why, I'm lighting a scene a certain way, except that it makes us feel a certain way. You feel it in your gut, and that's why it's telling the story. That's why you're doing this. And again, it's not an intellectual thing for me. It just comes from the gut, like pure instinct kind of thing.
Yeah, because like Homeland was a lot of dark, moody, right? True Blood, same, but a lot of saturation at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And then Star Wars is very a totally different aesthetic.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so you really have to kind of adapt as well as to also create something new. Right?
Absolutely. And every cinematographer does something differently. I followed Nelson Craig on Homeland. He did the first 2 seasons. I started in season 3. And there was an aesthetic that we wanted to follow, which was a very natural look. But I did it in a very different way than he did it. We did a lot of lighting to make it look like we did none. And we would scout locations. And I'll be honest, if the location, if the lighting of, say, a bar or a restaurant was perfect without adding anything and it told the story appropriately, then I'd go with it. But also if it meant pre-rigging and all these HMIs coming in the window to simulate sunlight, then we would do that also. So there are a lot of different ways to get to the same place in cinematography, I think. And then, one of our main approaches on the Star Wars pictures, the Star Wars shows, is how would George have done it back in the day? So we rely a lot on the things that he figured out and what he was doing back in the day.
That's great. 10 years from now, what do you hope to achieve by then?
That's a good question. I don't know that I think that far ahead, but you know,